Everyone on the Ark now!
1,000, if not more, the story of Noah's Ark.
The allure of uncovering the remnants of Noah's Ark has captivated human imagination for generations.
The long hunt for Noah's Ark takes a sudden turn. The mystery of Noah's Ark.
To many, it stands as a parable entrenched in biblical lore. Yet, for individuals like Ron Wyatt, the Ark represents a tangible relic of history, shrouded in mystery and awaiting revelation.
Is very interesting out there is up on the ridge just above where Noah's Ark.
This video embarks on a journey into the recent claims of its discovery in Turkey, meticulously examining the presented evidence and pondering its profound implications. Background. The tale of Noah's Ark is as ancient as it is compelling, deeply rooted in the annals of religious literature and human consciousness. The narrative is primarily found in the book of Genesis in the Bible, though parallels can be seen in other ancient texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh. It narrates the story of Noah, a man chosen by God for his righteousness in an age of moral decay and corruption. In this biblical account, the earth had become awash with wickedness, with humanity having strayed far from the righteous path. Distraught by mankind's wickedness, God decided to cleanse the earth with a deluge, intending to reset the balance and give creation a fresh start. However, in his mercy, he provided Noah with specific instructions to build an ark, a gargantuan vessel that would shelter his family and a pair of every living creature, ensuring their survival from the impending floodwaters. Constructed from gopher wood and sealed with pitch both inside and out, the ark's dimensions were monumental. It was to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high, featuring 3 decks and multiple rooms. Once the ark was ready, the animals, led by an unseen hand, made their way in pairs to this refuge. And as the last of them entered, and Noah's family boarded, the heavens opened, and for 40 days and nights, rain poured, submerging the world beneath the swelling waves. According to the scriptures, as the waters eventually began to recede, the ark found its resting place on the mountains of Ararat. However, what precisely the term Mountains of Ararat denotes has been the subject of debate and speculation for generations. Today, Mount Ararat, with its snow-capped peak, stands majestically in eastern Turkey, near the border with Armenia and Iran. This has naturally made it a focal point for many who believe that the remains of the Ark may still be found there. The story of Noah's Ark transcends its religious roots, permeating the broader cultural and moral fabric of societies around the world. At its core, the tale serves as a potent reminder of the consequences of moral decay and the rejuvenating power of redemption and faith. Noah's unwavering faith and obedience in the face of a seemingly insurmountable task teach lessons of trust, perseverance, and hope. The Ark, on the other hand, symbolizes salvation, a refuge against the overwhelming forces of chaos and destruction. Beyond the theological implications, the story of the Ark has spurred countless explorations and expeditions in the quest for its physical evidence. For many, finding the Ark would serve as a tangible connection between faith and history, bridging the gap between the seen and the unseen. Over the years, numerous claims of its discovery have been made, each accompanied by its own set of evidence, ranging from wood fragments to eyewitness accounts. The 1948 revelation. The year 1948 was significant in many ways, as the world was still healing from the scars of the Second World War and the wounds were fresh. A new chapter in history was unfolding in the Middle East. Israel was declared an independent nation, creating ripples throughout the geopolitical landscape. Yet, amidst these world-altering events, an enigmatic discovery near the Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey captured the imagination of a select few, hinting at the tantalizing possibility of an ancient biblical artifact coming to light. Local residents in the vicinity of Mount Ararat started whispering tales of an unusual sighting. An earthquake, common in the seismic region surrounding Ararat, had unveiled something extraordinary. Nestled amidst the rugged terrains and snow-capped peaks, a large, ship-like silhouette was reported to be discernible. To the locals, familiar with the biblical narrative of Noah's Ark, the implications of such a discovery were profound. Could this be the remnants of the very vessel that, according to Abrahamic traditions, had once harbored life amidst a world-engulfing deluge? Yet, despite the potential significance, this discovery remained relatively obscure for a time. The socio-political changes occurring in the broader region overshadowed local lore, and the world's attention was understandably elsewhere. But whispers and tales have a life of their own, and they journey through time and space, waiting for the right moment to be heard. It wasn't until 1959, over a decade later, that this story began to gain traction in the wider world. A Turkish pilot flying over the Ararat region managed to capture aerial photographs that showcased a peculiar structure in the mountains. This wasn't just any formation, it bore a striking resemblance to a ship. The images, when eventually made public, sent ripples through academic, religious, and explorative communities worldwide. Here, captured in black and white, was a formation that closely mirrored descriptions of Noah's Ark as depicted in religious scriptures. The revelation stirred a pot of emotions and speculations. Scholars, theologians, archaeologists, and adventurers were all drawn to the mystery. Was this the final resting place of the legendary Ark? Could this discovery bridge the millennia-old chasm between faith and tangible evidence? Or was it merely a curious geological formation, sculpted by eons of erosion and seismic activity? As news of the photographs spread, Mount Ararat became a magnet for expeditions. Teams from around the world, equipped with the best tools of the era, embarked on treacherous journeys up the mountain. The allure of potentially validating one of humanity's oldest narratives was irresistible. The landscape around Ararat is rugged, treacherous, and often inhospitable. The challenges posed by the environment, combined with the political complexities of the region, made each expedition a test of endurance, determination, and diplomacy. With every expedition, stories emerged. Tales of strange wooden beams at high altitudes, artifacts that hinted at human occupation, and locals with generational memories of a mysterious ship on the mountain. Some returned with samples which were subjected to a battery of tests in labs across the world. Others came back with more questions than answers, their searches hindered by the mountain's capricious weather and the shifting layers of ice and snow that concealed its secrets. The 1948 revelation was more than just a discovery. It became a symbol of humanity's eternal quest for understanding and validation. In the shadow of Mount Ararat, the realms of faith, history, and science converged. For believers, the ship-like structure was a reaffirmation of faith, a tangible link to a divinely orchestrated past. For skeptics, it was a geological anomaly, deserving study but devoid of biblical significance. For the undecided, it was a riddle wrapped in layers of myth, history, and geology waiting to be unraveled. Initial investigations. The unveiling of the aerial photographs of the mysterious ship-like structure on Mount Ararat piqued the interest of experts from various fields. Among them was Dr. Brandon Berger, a renowned photogrammetry expert. Photogrammetry, the science of making measurements from photographs, has been pivotal in deciphering and understanding various geographical and archaeological phenomena. Dr. Berger took a keen interest in the images from Mount Ararat, and after meticulous analysis, he validated the claims of the locals and the Turkish pilot, confirming that the object did indeed bear a remarkable resemblance to a ship. The implications of Dr. Berger's analysis were vast. If this was a man-made structure, the question of its origin became paramount. Was this the biblical Ark, a relic from a bygone era, or something else entirely? The scientific and religious communities were abuzz with theories and speculations. There was an urgent need for on-ground investigations to either validate or debunk the emerging hypotheses. Seizing the moment, Life magazine, a prominent American publication known for its photojournalism, sponsored an expedition to the site in 1960. Assembling a team of geologists, archaeologists, and mountaineers, the expedition aimed to shed light on the enigma of Mount Ararat. The treacherous terrain and unpredictable weather patterns posed significant challenges, but the allure of the discovery fueled their determination. Upon reaching the site, the team made a series of observations. Among their findings was petrified wood, a form of fossilized wood wherein all the organic materials have been replaced with minerals. This was an intriguing find. Petrified wood at such an altitude was unusual and suggested that there may once have been a forested region, or that the wood was carried there by some other means. However, their limited time at the site and the initial analyses led them to conclude that while the petrified wood was an interesting geological find, there was no significant archaeological evidence to suggest the presence of a man-made structure, let alone the biblical Ark. However, the story didn't end there. News of the expedition's findings reached Ron Wyatt, a fervent Christian amateur archaeologist and adventurer. Wyatt, like many believers, held a deep-rooted faith in the biblical narrative. To him, the story of Noah's Ark wasn't just a spiritual allegory, but a historical event. The idea that remnants of the Ark could be lying in wait, ready to be discovered, resonated with his adventurous spirit and religious convictions. Wyatt saw in the Life magazine team's findings not a conclusion, but a beginning. The presence of petrified wood, though dismissed by some as being of no archaeological consequence, was, in his eyes, a clue. He believed that further, more detailed investigations were essential. Where others saw dead ends, Wyatt saw pathways waiting to be explored. His perspective was that perhaps the team had only scratched the surface, and deeper investigations might reveal more. Thus began Wyatt's lifelong obsession with the Ark. Over the subsequent years, he would mount multiple expeditions to the site, each time armed with more knowledge, better equipment, and an unyielding determination. For Wyatt, the quest for the Ark was more than just an archaeological endeavor. It was a spiritual journey, a pilgrimage of sorts. Each trip to Ararat was a testament to his unwavering faith and a challenge to the skeptics. Ron Wyatt's pursuit. The relentless spirit of human curiosity has often led many to embark on quests that define their lives. For Ron Wyatt, the quest for the elusive remnants of Noah's Ark became such a journey. While many had dismissed or moved on from the reports stemming from Mount Ararat, Wyatt saw an opportunity, a beckoning call that combined his spiritual convictions with a thirst for discovery. The photographs published in Life magazine in 1960 became a lighthouse for Wyatt's pursuits. With each detailed look at the images, he became more convinced that the mountains held secrets, yearning to be unveiled. As the years passed and the narrative began to fade in collective memory, Wyatt's conviction only grew stronger. Finally, in 1977, nearly 2 decades after the initial discovery, Wyatt decided it was time to visit the site himself. Setting foot on Turkish soil, Wyatt felt the weight of history and faith intertwining. As he began his journey towards the mountains, local legends and tales began to reach his ears. Among the many narratives, one stood out prominently: the legend of the mysteriously placed anchor stones. According to local folklore, these massive stones, scattered across the region, served a purpose during the Great Flood. They were believed to be drogue stones, essentially used as counterweights or stabilizers for a large ship in turbulent waters. Such stones, if they indeed had existed and served the said purpose, would provide substantial evidence for a large seafaring vessel, possibly the Ark. Guided by the tales, Wyatt began his search for these anchor stones. What he found astonished him. Large, meticulously carved stones with crosses etched onto them dotted the landscape. These crosses, according to local tradition, were added centuries later by early Christians who identified these stones with the biblical tale of Noah. To Wyatt, the location and design of these stones were more than mere coincidences. They were like breadcrumbs leading him directly to the ship-like silhouette high up in the mountains. Upon reaching the site, Wyatt was met with a sight that he believed was awe-inspiring. The structure was massive, with dimensions that somewhat aligned with the biblical descriptions of the Ark. The ship-like formation seemed nestled and preserved, perhaps by divine will, awaiting its discovery. The petrified wooden remains, the peculiar metallic objects, and the overall layout of the site resonated with Wyatt's beliefs. He felt that he was standing on sacred ground, where history and scripture intertwined. However, it wasn't just the physical evidence that convinced Wyatt of the site's biblical ties. For him, the entire journey was filled with divine signs and interventions. From the guidance of the anchor stones to the local tales that echoed the biblical narrative, every step of his exploration seemed preordained. The more he delved into the mysteries of Mount Ararat, the more convinced he became that he was on a God-led mission. To Wyatt, this was not just an archaeological expedition, but a spiritual odyssey, a test of faith, and a journey of revelation. Word of Wyatt's discoveries soon spread. As tales of his findings began to make the rounds, both supporters and skeptics emerged. To many within the Christian community, Wyatt's claims offered hope and validation of their beliefs. The possibility that the ARK, a central symbol of faith and God's promise, had been discovered was exhilarating. Churches, religious groups, and believers worldwide eagerly followed Wyatt's updates, with many considering him a modern-day Indiana Jones, albeit on a divine mission. Challenging dimensions. In any quest for truth, the devil is often in the details. When studying historical or scriptural records and trying to match them to contemporary discoveries, precision is paramount. Any discrepancies, however slight, can cast shadows of doubt over even the most compelling findings. This was the challenge Ron Wyatt faced when measuring the ship-like formation in the mountains of Ararat. The biblical description of Noah's Ark in the book of Genesis is quite specific about its dimensions: 300 cubits in length. A cubit, an ancient unit of measurement, was typically based on the distance from the elbow to the tip of the longest finger. But like many archaic units, its exact length varied among cultures and historical periods. For those trying to find a real-world match to the Ark, this posed a dilemma. When Wyatt and his team measured the structure they believed to be the Ark, it was not the 437 feet one would expect if using the traditionally accepted Hebrew cubit of roughly 18 inches. Instead, the formation was 515 feet in length. This discrepancy could easily serve as ammunition for skeptics, casting doubt on the claim that this was indeed Noah's Ark. A difference of 78 feet was not a minor deviation, but a significant disparity that had to be addressed. Wyatt, however, was not deterred. With characteristic determination, he delved deeper into historical records and cultural contexts. His research led him to an interesting hypothesis. What if Moses, traditionally believed to be the author of the book of Genesis, had used a different standard for the cubit when recording the dimensions of the Ark? After all, Moses was raised in the Egyptian royal court and would have been well versed in their customs, traditions, and measurements. Historical records indicate that the Egyptian royal cubit, a standard unit of measurement in ancient Egypt, was longer than its Hebrew counterpart. Wyatt proposed that when Moses wrote about the Ark, he used the Egyptian royal cubit, which was familiar to him, rather than the Hebrew variant. If Wyatt's theory was correct, the discrepancy in the Ark's measurements could be reconciled. The Egyptian royal cubit is believed to have been approximately 20.6 inches. Doing the math, 300. Cubits at 20.6 inches per cubit equates to approximately 515 feet, a measurement that aligned perfectly with the dimensions of the structure found on Mount Ararat. For Wyatt and many of his supporters, this was not only a vindication of the site's authenticity, but also a testament to the meticulousness of biblical accounts when understood in their proper historical context. Yet this revelation ignited debates among historians, theologians, and archaeologists. Some praised Wyatt for his attention to detail and for shedding light on a frequently overlooked aspect of biblical interpretation. Others, however, remained skeptical, arguing that the correlation might be coincidental and emphasizing the need for caution before drawing conclusions. For many, this debate was a reminder of the challenges inherent in trying to bridge the ancient world with modern discoveries. The world of the past spoke a different language, used different units of measurements, and operated under different cultural paradigms. Understanding this world requires not just knowledge, but also imagination, empathy, and an appreciation for the complexities of history. As word of Wyatt's theory spread, it became a focal point for discussions on biblical archaeology. Conferences, journals, and seminars debated the Egyptian cubit theory, with scholars from around the world weighing in. While some saw it as a key to unlocking one of the Bible's greatest mysteries, others saw it as a speculative leap. Advanced investigations, Ron Wyatt's conviction that the ship-like formation on Mount Ararat was the fabled Noah's Ark was unshakable, but he knew that personal conviction alone would not suffice in the court of scientific and historical validation. To cement his claims, Wyatt embarked on a series of more advanced investigations that employed cutting-edge technology and rigorous methodologies. This was an era of rapid technological growth, and Wyatt sought to harness these advancements in his quest for definitive proof. One of the primary challenges facing Wyatt was the depth of the structure. The silhouette of the ship was evident, but much of its structure was buried beneath layers of earth, rock, and ice. Traditional excavation methods were potentially destructive and time-consuming. Instead, Wyatt turned to the field of geophysics, which offered non-invasive techniques to probe below the surface. Molecular frequency generators were first on his list. These devices work by emitting waves into the ground and then analyzing the returning signals to determine the presence and location of specific materials. Wyatt's hope was that this would reveal evidence of long-decayed wood or other organic materials consistent with the Ark's construction. The results were encouraging. Not only did they indicate the presence of organic materials deep within the structure, but they also hinted at the layout and arrangement of these materials, suggesting deliberate design rather than natural formations. Metal detectors were also employed extensively. The Bible, while providing details on the Ark's dimensions, was silent on the specifics of its construction. However, if this was a ship built to withstand the torrents of a worldwide flood, it was logical to assume that it might contain metal elements, rivets, braces, or other reinforcements. Wyatt's assumptions were validated when the detectors buzzed with activity, indicating the presence of metallic elements deep within the structure. Further analysis revealed traces of titanium, a metal not commonly found in nature in its metallic form. For Wyatt, this was further proof that what lay beneath the soil was not a natural formation but a man-made structure. Yet one of the most revelatory tools in Wyatt's arsenal was the ground-penetrating radar. This device emitted radio waves into the ground, which bounced back upon hitting an object or a change in material. By studying the returning waves, it was possible to build a picture of what lay beneath the surface. What the radar revealed was staggering. A clear three-deck layout consistent with the biblical description of the Ark having 3 levels. The decks appeared to be compartmentalized, suggesting rooms or chambers, potentially for the animals that Noah was commanded to save. But beyond the hard data these tools provided, Wyatt's investigations also took on a personal dimension. He spoke extensively with locals, collecting oral histories and legends that might provide additional context. Many spoke of ancestors who referenced the Ark and its final resting place on the mountains, further cementing Wyatt's belief that he was on the right track. Despite the promising results, challenges were aplenty. The remote location made each trip a logistical challenge. The political climate of the region was not always conducive to extended excavations, leading to numerous interruptions. Weather conditions, especially the cold and snow, often hampered efforts. Yet Wyatt remained undeterred. Each obstacle only deepened his resolve to bring to light what he believed was one of the most significant archaeological finds in history. However, with every piece of evidence Wyatt presented, skepticism grew in many quarters. Critics pointed to alternative explanations for the findings, questioned the reliability of the technologies employed, or argued that the evidence, while intriguing, was not conclusive. They maintained that without more concrete evidence, like clearly identifiable fragments of the Ark or ancient inscriptions, Wyatt's claims remained speculative. Validation. The process of scientific validation can be as challenging as the discovery itself. In archaeology, especially when dealing with claims of biblical proportions, the importance of rigorous testing and verification cannot be overstated. As the Mount Ararat site gained prominence in the eyes of both believers and skeptics, the need for undeniable evidence became paramount. Enter carbon dating, an objective scientific method to determine the age of ancient organic materials. Carbon dating, or radiocarbon dating, is based on the principle that living organisms continuously absorb carbon-14, a naturally occurring radioactive isotope. Upon death, this absorption stops, and the carbon-14 in the organism begins to decay at a known rate. By measuring the amount of carbon-14 remaining in a sample and comparing it to the initial expected levels, scientists can determine when the organism, or in this case the wood, stopped absorbing carbon. Wood samples from the site were carefully extracted and sent to multiple laboratories to ensure consistency in results. The anticipation was palpable. If the wood was just a few hundred years old, it could easily be dismissed as remnants from some other structure or artifact. However, if it dated back several millennia, it would align with the timeline of the biblical flood and lend significant weight to Wyatt's claims. The results were nothing short of astounding. The wood samples from the Mount Ararat site were indeed ancient, dating back thousands of years. The age bracket provided by the carbon dating was consistent with the estimated timeline of the biblical flood. While this did not conclusively prove that the site was the final resting place of Noah's Ark, it significantly narrowed down alternative explanations. The ancient wood, in conjunction with the ship-like formation and other evidence gathered, painted a compelling picture. The global reaction to these findings was a mixture of awe, skepticism, and curiosity. Academics, theologians, and laypeople alike debated the results' implications. For many believers, this was a reaffirmation of faith, a tangible link to a story that had been passed down through generations. Skeptics, while unable to dismiss the age of the wood, pointed out that it did not definitively identify the structure as the Ark. They argued that the region's history was complex and that the wood could be from another ancient structure or vessel. Yet the sheer weight of the evidence and the meticulousness of Wyatt's investigation could not be ignored. Recognizing the site's cultural, historical, and potentially religious significance, the Turkish government took a decisive step. In a move that surprised many, they declared the area surrounding the ship-like formation a national park, effectively preserving it for future generations. Further, they erected a visitor center and placed signs identifying it as the potential site of Noah's Ark. This was not just a nod to Wyatt's work, but also a recognition of the site's potential to draw visitors, researchers, and pilgrims from around the world.